paper reports that two of the male prostitutes were given a late-night tour of the White House last year.
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers.
I want the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
Greetings from the Nick Bryant podcast. For those who have followed my podcast, you know that I've addressed some very dark subject matter. But I think the extreme abuse survey is probably the darkest. In last week's podcast, I covered part 1 of the extreme abuse survey, and this week I'm covering part 2. Again, I should mention that this presentation may be triggering. The extreme abuse survey. And here are the 4 investigators of the extreme abuse survey. 2 of them are American and 2 of them are German. Bettina Overkamp, a psychologist from Germany, and Thorsten Becker, a social worker from Germany, were the 2 German researchers. Psychologist Wanda Character and Carol Rutz were the American researchers. Carol Rutz, a mind control survivor, wrote a book called A Nation Betrayed: Secret Cold War Experiments Performed on Our Children and Other Innocent People. The methods of the extreme abuse survey. The extreme abuse survey for adults was an international online survey that was conducted between January 1st and March 30th in 2007. The website came under repeated attacks. Several attempts were made to obtain the private data of some technicians and surveyors. The extreme abuse survey, however, was successfully completed on March 31st, 2007. 2,337 people viewed the survey. 1,471 answered at least one question. There's a number of countries that are represented, but the majority of the people that filled out the survey are from the United States, and Germany and the United Kingdom are a distant second and third. English was the primary language of 852. 256 spoke German, and 21 spoke Dutch, and 10 spoke Norwegian. It's an interesting breakdown because females are overrepresented in the extreme abuse survey compared to males. 81% of the respondents were females, 18% were male, and 1% was transgendered. The category of extreme abuse listed below that best describes my experience as a survivor is, the first row is ritual abuse. And of the 387 respondents, 191 or 19% said that they'd been subjected to ritual abuse, only ritual abuse. 69 or 7% said that they'd been subjected to only mind control. This is interesting. Ritual abuse and mind control together accounted for 513 respondents, or 52% of the respondents. And then other extreme abuse accounted for 22%. So ritual abuse is something that's very difficult to address because it has been the subject of ridicule and scorn. During the Satanic Panic, ritual abuse was embraced by the media and multitudes, but then the pendulum swung the other way, and the very existence of ritual abuse has been brought into question. But over the years, researchers have been collecting data about ritual abuse, and an article published in Psychology Today on September 23rd of 2023, written by psychologist Adrienne Fletcher, discusses her ritual abuse. So let's look at the reality of ritual abuse. A 2017 survey conducted by the British Psychological Society found that 15% of clinical practitioners had encountered ritual abuse. A 1995 study published in the Journal of Professional Psychology, Research and Practice looked at 497 Christian therapists and 100 members of the American Psychological Association. and concluded that Christian therapists' diagnosis of ritual abuse was only slightly higher than members of the American Psychological Association. And a 1999 study published in the Journal of Sexual Child Abuse concluded that religious beliefs had no relationship to a therapist's identification of ritual abuse. So therapists' religious beliefs do not play a role in overdiagnosing ritual abuse. This category is my current age. There were 98 respondents between the ages of 18 and 21, and they accounted for 7% of the respondents. There were 333 respondents between the ages of 22 and 35, and they accounted for 23% of the respondents. There were 581 respondents between the ages of 36 and 50, and they accounted for 40% of the respondents. There were 401 respondents between the ages of 51 and 65, and they accounted for 28% of the respondents. There were 38 respondents over the age of 60, and they accounted for 3% of the respondents. If just one person in the age groups from 18 to 21 or 22 to 35 is telling the truth about being a victim of U.S. government-sponsored mind control, then the U.S. did not stop mind control programs in 1972, as it has claimed. I was subjected to government-sponsored mind control experimentation at the ages of 3 through 6. Of the 978 respondents, 226 or 23% responded in the affirmative. I was subjected to government-sponsored mind control experimentation at the ages 7 through 13. Of the 972 respondents, 234 or 24% said that they'd been subjected to government-sponsored mind control between the ages of 7 and 13. I was subjected to government-sponsored mind control experimentation at ages 14 through 17. Of the 974 respondents, 173 or 18% responded in the affirmative. I was subjected to government-sponsored mind control experimentation at ages 31 or older. Of the 972 respondents, 91 or 9% said that they'd been subjected to government-sponsored mind control past the age of 31. I am currently being accessed and or abused by my ritual abuse mind control perpetrators against my will. Of the 983 respondents, 147 or 15% said that they were currently being accessed by their perpetrators. I was ritually abused in a satanic cult. Of the 986 respondents, 543 or 55% said that they'd been ritually abused in a satanic cult. I was ritually abused in a Gnostic occult group. Of the 969 respondents, 133 or 14% said that they'd been ritually abused in a Gnostic occult group. I was ritually abused in child pornography. Of the 977 respondents, 474 or 49% said that they'd been ritually abused in child pornography. At least one group that abused me is national or international in scope. Of the 980 respondents, 451 or 46% responded in the affirmative. I remember seeing perpetrators cloaked in black robes. Of the 986 respondents, 591 or 60% said that they had seen their perpetrators in black robes. I remember seeing perpetrators cloaked in purple robes. Of the 965 respondents, 236 or 24% said that they remembered their perpetrators in purple robes. I remember seeing perpetrators cloaked in white robes. Of the 960 respondents, 349 or 36% said that they'd seen their perpetrators in white robes. I remember seeing perpetrators dressed in costumes. Of the 972 respondents, 441 or 45% responded in the affirmative. I remember seeing perpetrators wearing white doctor's coats. Of the 969 respondents, 506 or 52% said that their perpetrators wore doctor's smocks. The surname of at least one of my perpetrators was the same as a color. Of the 964 respondents, 224 or 23% said that one of their perpetrators had the same name as a color. One of my perpetrators went by the name of Dr. Black. Of the 965 respondents, 100 or 10% said that one of their perpetrators was named Dr. Black. One of my perpetrators went by the name of Dr. Green. Of the 963 respondents, 124 or 13% responded in the affirmative. One of my perpetrators went by the name of Dr. White. Of the 964 respondents, 83 or 9% of the respondents said that one of their perpetrators was named Dr. White. One of my perpetrators went by the name of Dr. Schwartz. Of the 962 respondents, 47 or 5% said one of their perpetrators was named Dr. Schwartz. One of my perpetrators went by the name of Father Joseph. Of the 961 respondents, 68 or 7% responded in the affirmative. One of my perpetrators went by the name of Vacherchen, which is German for dad or daddy. Of the 959 respondents, 54 or 6% responded in the affirmative. I have watched a person be flayed. Of the 964 respondents, 307 or 32% said that they had witnessed someone being flayed. I realize that this category is incomprehensibly evil, and it's tough to get one's mind around this type of evil. But if just one of those 307 people are telling the truth, then that category is unfortunately a reality. I have attempted suicide one or more times. Of the 980 respondents, 611 or 62% said that they'd committed suicide or attempted to commit suicide at least one time. I have been transported out of my local area for purposes of ritual abuse and mind control. Of the 967 respondents, 465 or 48% said that they'd been transported out of their local area for the purposes of ritual abuse and or mind control. I have been transported out of my native country for purposes of ritual abuse and mind control. Of the 965 respondents, 177 or 18% said that they'd been transported out of the country for their abuse. As a child, I fantasized that I was being tortured by doctors. Of the 968 respondents, 241 or 26% had that fantasy. I am able to speak and or write in an unknown language and or code. Of the 969 respondents, 269 or 28% responded in the affirmative. I have been hospitalized because of the after effects of ritual abuse and mind control. Of the 971 respondents, 419 or 43% said that they'd been hospitalized because of their abuse. My ritual abuse originated from my family of origin. Of the 979 respondents, 612 or 63% said that their ritual abuse started in their family of origin. My mind control originated from my family of origin. Of the 956 respondents, 410 or 43% said that their mind control had started in their family of origin. At least one spiritual leader was involved in my ritual abuse, mind control abuse. Of the 960 respondents, 438 or 46% said that at least one spiritual leader was involved in their abuse. The next category is one or more of my alters had access to codes. Of the 967 respondents, 332 or 34% said that one of their alters had access to codes. Candy Jones was the name of a famous model and pinup girl in the 1940s. A book written about her, The Control of Candy Jones, is about the CIA using her as a hypnotized courier for codes and information. The book was originally published in 1976, and it's actually a very good book. I have or have had at least one robot alter. Of the 967 respondents, 270 or 28% said that they had one robot alter. I have or have had at least one animal alter. Of the 961 respondents, 325 or 34% responded in the affirmative. I have or have had at least one demon alter. Of the 957 respondents, 379 or 40% said that they had a demon alter. As strange as these three categories seem, they had a number of respondents. Again, if just one of them is telling the truth, then that particular category is a reality. I had memories of incest before I sought therapy or counseling. Of the 985 respondents, 629 or 64% said that they had memories of incest prior to seeking counseling. The primary tenet of the False Memory Syndrome Foundation is that therapists are responsible for planning false memories of child abuse. But this category belies the false memory syndrome. I had memories of ritual abuse before I sought therapy and counseling. Of the 977 respondents, 467 or 48% said that they had memories of ritual abuse before therapy. Again, this belies the false memory syndrome. My program included time travel experiments. Of the 958 respondents, 146 or 15% responded in the affirmative. I have been given a seduction assignment by a mind control programmer. Of the 965 respondents, 219 or 23% said that they've been given a seduction assignment by a programmer. I have successfully sued my perpetrator or perpetrators in civil court. Of the 964 respondents, only 16 or 2% said that they had successfully sued their perpetrators. I have a spiritual belief system. Of the 994 respondents, 745 or 75% said that they had a spiritual belief system. I participate in an organized religion. Of the 982 respondents, 422 or 43% said they participated in an organized religion. I am currently in psychotherapy or counseling for help with my ritual abuse mind control issues. Of the 979 respondents, 562 or 57% said that they were currently in counseling. I am a therapist, counselor, or clergy for ritual abuse mind control survivors. Of the 964 respondents, 95 or 10% responded in the affirmative. I was subjected to ritual abuse before I was born. In part one of the extreme abuse survey, I discussed respondents who said that they had been subjected to mind control before their births. Of the 975 respondents, 73 or 7% said that they had been subjected to prenatal mind control. I was quite perplexed about this category. But when ritual abuse is superimposed on mind control in this category, of the 971 respondents, 190 or 20% responded that they had been subjected to prenatal abuse. Again, in part one, I reviewed the category of mind control between birth and 2 years of age. Of the 975 respondents, 139 or 14% said that they had been subjected to mind control between birth and 2 years of age. However, when ritual abuse is superimposed on mind control, Of the 970 respondents, 481 or 50% said that they'd been subjected to ritual abuse and mind control from birth to 2 years of age. Earlier in the presentation, I discussed the category of mind control between the ages of 3 and 6. Of the 978 respondents, 226 or 23% said that they've been subjected to mind control in that age category. However, when ritual abuse is superimposed on mind control, of the 982 respondents, 686 or 70% said that they'd been subjected to ritual abuse and mind control between the ages of 3 and 6. Earlier, I also discussed the category of mind control between 7 and 13 years of age. Of the 972 respondents, 234 or 24% said that they had been subjected to mind control in that age category. However, when ritual abuse is superimposed on mind control, of the 982 respondents, 677 or 69% said that they'd been subjected to both ritual abuse and mind control between the ages of 7 and 13. I also addressed the category of mind control between the ages of 14 and 17. Of the 974 respondents, 173 or 18% said that they'd been subjected to mind control in that particular age category. However, when ritual abuse is superimposed on mind control, of the 976 respondents, 494 or 51% said that they'd been subjected to ritual abuse and mind control from the ages of 14 to 17. I previously discussed the category of mind control between the ages of 18 and 30. Of the 974 respondents, 116 or 12% said that they've been subjected to mind control in that age category. However, when ritual abuse is superimposed on mind control, of the 967 respondents, 333 or 51% said that they've been subjected to ritual abuse and mind control between the ages of 14 and 7. Earlier, I addressed the category of mind control for people that were 31 or older. Of the 972 respondents, 91 or 9% said that they've been subjected to mind control in that age category. However, when ritual abuse is superimposed on mind control, of the 980 respondents, 206 or 21% said that they'd been subjected to ritual abuse and mind control. I was ritually abused in a witchcraft cult. Of the 971 respondents, 219 or 23% said that they'd been abused in a witchcraft cult. I was ritually abused in voodooism. Of the 966 respondents, 67 or 7% said that they'd been ritually abused in voodooism. A circumcision as genital mutilation was performed on me. Of the 965 respondents, 82 or 9% responded in the affirmative. That concludes part 2 of my review of the Extreme Abuse Survey. The Extreme Abuse Survey certainly details a number of horrific categories that are seemingly incomprehensible. I've shown that studies in respected academic journals have concluded that ritual abuse is, in fact, a reality. I've also shown that the CIA's mind control experimentation, which could be inconceivably sadistic, aligns with some of the Extreme Abuse Survey's categories. Unfortunately, the vast majority of the CIA's mind control documentation was destroyed, so we will never know the full scope of the sadism involved in those mind control experiments. Ironically, the greatest strength of the Extreme Abuse Survey is also its greatest weakness. The anonymity offered by the survey's investigators generated a large number of respondents. But that anonymity is also its greatest weakness because we don't know the identities and motives of the respondents. We have to ask ourselves, is it possible that all the respondents of the Extreme Abuse Survey are lying? As I mentioned in part 1, numerous studies have been published in respected academic journals that were conducted anonymously and online. However, those studies didn't have the incomprehensible gravitas of the Extreme Abuse Survey. If the viewers or listeners of my podcast want to further explore the methodology of the Extreme Abuse Survey to draw their own conclusions about its validity, I would suggest that they visit the survey's website, which is extreme-abuse-survey.org. Again, the survey's website is extreme-abuse-survey.org.